Oh no, everybody's gone woke.
Started as a way to make positive changes in society, but some critics argue it went too far. Tonight we discuss the woke movement.
Be able to destroy leftism in this country and leave woke ideology on the dustbin of history.
We were right there, but this is 31 flavors of wokeism.
But I am getting so tired of this woke world.
Biden's embrace of woke culture put the stamp of approval on the grim conviction that America is eternally guilty of systemic racism.
It's all woke culture. It's this culture of compliance. They want you to comply. That's what it's about more than anything. It's getting people to change, getting people to listen to you and do what you want them to do.
Joe Rogan and his fans like it when people play the devil's advocate, right?
May I play devil's advocate for a moment?
What would you say an argument is? Like, I'm sure you've gotten in a few arguments yourself. Isn't the point of an argument to get someone to agree with you or to comply with what you're saying? Not that they necessarily will comply, but say you're arguing that putting a cup right on your coffee table causes a permanent ring. That's an argument saying, hey, please comply and put a cup on a coaster. The point of having these discussions about how the world should work is kinda hoping that people will agree with and comply with your point of view. That's how arguments work, especially when they're things about human rights and treating people with respect. You're hoping that people comply with that idea.
Those are two of the aspects of the woke mind virus that I think are very dangerous. Is that it's often anti-meritocratic. You can't question things. Even the questioning is bad.
Oh, this is dangerous. You can't even question things. You can't even go on an HBO show where the host absolutely worships you. You can't even buy social media companies and ruin them anymore. It's just a mind virus. Yeah, like these people who want to have a woke holiday.
I just think Juneteenth is a woke holiday and we shouldn't give these people an inch.
Because apparently celebrating the end of slavery is woke? Wait a minute, what does woke even mean?
Do you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. Woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. It's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah, look, your time.
What does it mean to you? How do you define woke?
There's a lot of things. You want to start with biological boys playing in girls' sports. That's one thing. The fact that we have gender pronoun classes in the military now. All of these things that are pushing what a small minority want on the majority of Americans, it's too much.
But it's not just politicians who are afraid of this mind virus. It's also a lot of pastors and a lot of Christians. Hey everybody, thank you so much for liking and subscribing and commenting and all that wonderful stuff you do because you're all wonderful people. I put the links down below for the Patreon as well as our social media, so join the party there and you're all number one. When I talk about Christians doing stuff, I usually get a few people saying, but I'm a Christian and I don't do that. Great, then I wasn't talking about you, was I?
Because it's not for you. Because you have everything. Everything is for you. And this one thing is for him.
When I make these videos, it's never my intention to say that all Christians do something. I'm saying that the people I'm showing clips of do this, and these people have a large following. This one especially, though, I want to say I recognize that it's not all Christians because a lot of it is actually a reaction to movements within churches to try to be a little more understanding of their impact on the world and begin to recognize their own biases. But that doesn't mean that there aren't Christians freaking out about this and there aren't Christians upset about quote-unquote wokeness right now.
Our culture is fractured. Our politics is broken. People do not regard one another as human beings. We live in a day much like the days of Elijah. That sets the political, cultural, social, moral, spiritual backdrop.
I want us today to wake up to wokeism.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
And I got to ask you straight up, are you awake to wokeism?
Today we would call it wokeism, deconstructionism, progressivism. We have social Marxism.
I mean, deconstruction is a separate idea altogether. I'm sure there are overlaps of people who are deconstructing their faith or their worldview and people who evangelicals would call woke, but they're completely separate things. And progressivism, again, yeah, I could definitely see some overlap. There are plenty of people who would consider themselves progressive politically who are also afraid of this woke boogeyman. And we'll definitely get into the social Marxism term in a bit. But I don't think these are synonymous at all.
And it shows up most prominently today in issues of sex and marriage and gender and parenting.
It's been called woke culture, cancel culture. You'll hear words linked to it like authentic self, intersectionality, critical theory, gender identity, and on and on and on and on. What is happening?
You see what they're doing here? They're lumping a bunch of ideas and concepts that make them uncomfortable and challenge their social status as all under this one umbrella of wokeness. It allows them to not think about the individual ideas on their own, but to demonize it as just woke culture.
Woke means you're aware of social injustice. Wokeism is transforming American society. But our next guest says it's not for the better. Those embracing wokeism may actually be advancing an Orwellian world where unwoke Americans are shamed, censored, or fired from their jobs, perhaps even arrested.
So it's against social injustices like racism, like you have on the screen there, but then you say you can get fired for being against it. So am I wrong in deducing that your issue is that you don't want to get fired for being racist? Because the solution to that is pretty simple. It's just like, don't be racist or don't say racist stuff at work. Is that really that hard for you? But I'm sure your fear isn't as much that you might accidentally say something racist at work, but it's that second part about the LGBTQ rights. So in that case, also just don't say homophobic stuff at work. Leave that stuff for at home or church, or just, don't be homophobic at all.
The wokers call someone a racist, they're the racist.
Well, I know you are, but what am I?
They call someone intolerant, they're intolerant.
Oh, I know you are, but what am I?
They call someone like against this or against that, they're against this or against that.
Checkmate!
Social justice, political alliance, causes are now held with religious zeal and devotion. And we're out sort of showing everyone, this is my team. And so wokeism is workism. That's what it is. It's secular view of works.
So in his view of Christianity, which is a version of Calvinism, it's anti-works, which means it's not that you can't do nice things for people, but more that it doesn't affect whether or not you were saved, because it's by faith that you were saved and not by works. But this also somehow means that they get to vilify anyone who does want to help someone and does want to make someone's life a little bit better.
Who did you vote for, merit, demerit?
Right, because you don't judge people based on politics.
And I would just encourage you all to be praying for our president. You'll never hear this, but Joe Biden, you're a coward. You're a coward. Augustine says, one of our biggest problems, we have a bunch of Ahab men who are dressing up like women, feeling as victims, expecting to be compensated so they don't have to go to work. He was a Democrat. Now, do you believe in traditional marriage or non-traditional marriage? Merit, demerit.
What's the one where it's about fully grown humans who want to get married to each other? Is that the traditional one?
So which one of you was the lucky fella?
Oh, well, actually, we both are. I love that! The four of you can celebrate your anniversary together every year.
No. Congratulations on your wedding.
Yes.
To each other.
Yes. Oh!
Or do you mean like the Bible one where you can have a bunch of wives and concubines? Or like the one where marriage is done in exchange for livestock? Or the one where you have to marry your assaulter?
Do you believe in all religions or just your religion? Merit, demerit?
I think most people only believe in their own religion. It's kind of how most religions work. Are you talking about people who believe that other religions and other beliefs should have the same rights as Christianity? Because that's different, and obviously that should be a given, right?
Do you recycle or not? Merit, demerit? Will you put the rainbow flag on your social media platform and the right hashtags and causes or not? Merit, demerit? And it's a public way of keeping score. We're the good people, they're the bad people.
Yeah, right, because you would never divide people into arbitrary categories based on arbitrary rules.
Evil people live by demonic power. Foolish people live by the flesh. Wise people live by the Spirit. That's why our nation now is polarized and divided. Two groups of people saying, we're the good people. No, we're the good people. We're the good people. No, you're the bad people. You're the bad people. God shows up. He's like, you're all the bad people. And Jesus Christ alone is good.
To be woke is to be alert and attuned to the layers of oppression in society, generally surrounding the issues of race, sex, gender. It has a long history, although I think a lot of us think of it as being a fairly new movement. The name is new, but it really is a reformulation of old ideas and old roads that various countries have gone down. And I think it's ostensibly a movement for justice, but when you really understand what the internal logic of the movement, it fundamentally is something that weakens people far more than it helps, and particularly the people it claims to want to help. So this is why I find it to be alarming. I think it's more than just a political movement. It's actually a spiritual movement.
I mean, can you really call it a movement? It's not like there's an actual group of people doing these things. It's more like a bunch of different ideas, real and imagined, lumped together under one heading. So how are you then going to go back and pick apart its internal logic when you're the one who's lumping these things together under one heading?
Wokeism is real.
Oh, sorry. Never mind. It's real.
I mean, wokeism is a deceptive strategy from the enemy himself. It's deceptive. Ideas have consequences. Bad ideas have bad consequences.
I actually completely agree with that statement. Bad ideas have bad outcomes. It's the reason I do what I do. When people ask me why I can't just leave people alone and let them believe what they want, I mention that I'm not fighting against people as much as I'm fighting against bad ideas because they have bad consequences. So I'm glad me and Ed Young are on the same page here, and I'm sure we'll continue to agree on everything.
Deceptive ideas have destructive consequences. And what we're dealing with right now as we look in the different sections or different stratas of our culture, whether it be athletics and sports, whether it be entertainment, whether it be education, whether it be our government, whether it be the corporate world, what we see is this massive wave.
Inequality, inequity, nepotism.
Of wokeism.
Yeah, people who actually want to change those systems.
It's deceptive. It's sexy. It's cool to a lot of us because it preys on compassion. It basically says if you're compassionate, if your eyes are open, that everything is about the color of your skin, everything is about your body parts, everything is about your sexual orientation. If your eyes are open to that, then you are woke. But if you're not, you're racist, xenophobe, homophobe. The list is limitless.
Why can't they address people's actual arguments? Are people really saying that you have to reduce someone to the color of their skin? Or are they saying that there have been historical systems that favor certain races and ethnicities, and we need to break down these systems, or at the very least, address these systems? Are people really reduced to their body parts, or are people simply saying that women sometimes don't have the same opportunities that men do? And there are some obstacles for women in certain industries and in certain social environments, or that trans people exist and that it's harder for trans people to get jobs in certain areas. And also, they would like to not be discriminated against and don't want laws to be passed against them or people calling for their genocide.
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology.
Are people really just seen as their sexual orientation, or do people want to stop homophobia? Do people just want to get rid of laws and policies that make it harder for people who are gay to just live in this society? Maybe if you are called racist or homophobic a lot, then you should take a look at what you have been saying and doing and worry less about trying to villainize the people calling out that behavior.
Another name for wokeism is nothing but ism. It's a reductionist worldview. It would tell you that, there's not just racism in American history. American history is nothing but a systemic political expression of racism, and the only thing you could possibly do with it is not redeem it, but destroy it.
Again, though, this is hard to argue because they aren't actually referencing anyone who is saying these things, because all of this anti-woke stuff is just tearing down straw men that they have created. But it is a reaction and a distortion of some ideas that we can look at. The idea that there has been racism in history, I think we can all agree on that. The idea that the systems set up by racist people have long-lasting racist consequences. Things like the fact that after World War II, it became much cheaper and easier to buy a house, but people of color were not allowed to buy those cheaper houses. This resulted in a lot of white people having an upper hand, which then passes down from generation to generation. Or the fact that slavery being abolished in no way made racism stop, and groups like the KKK and things like Jim Crow laws have been doing everything they can to keep black people from advancing. And then when they do succeed anyway against these odds, they still get screwed over by things like the Tulsa Massacre, a mass racial murder that happened because white people didn't like to see black people being successful. So yeah, there is a history of racism, but that doesn't mean the racism stopped or the effects of that history of racism has stopped. So yeah, history wasn't just racist. Either way, pointing out that we still see the effects of this racist history is just a true statement and not the result of some woke mind virus.
It would tell you that white males are nothing but a toxic class of people, and the only way for them to be safe around anybody is to learn how to control their own toxicity.
Yeah, control your toxicity. Don't be a jerk. That doesn't mean you can't be a man. It just means that don't be a man who also is a jerk.
It would tell you that marriage is nothing but a system to oppress women.
I don't think a lot of people say that. Some do, and they aren't wrong historically, but I think that most people realize that there are different reasons why people get married.
That family life is nothing but a system to exclude people who identify as LGBT.
No, they just want to also have a family. That doesn't mean that you can't have a family. They aren't trying to take your kids from you. They just also want to have a family. I'll probably get some people in the comments pointing out that gay people actually can't have a family, as if they don't know that science has changed that quite a bit in the last 100 years, as well as there's other ways to have kids.
For the woke, they see it literally everywhere.
Wokeism is hell-bent on taking away our freedom of speech and freedom of religion.
What speech are you afraid to lose here? What part of your religion are you afraid to lose here? Do you think it's the love your neighbor part? Do you think it's the do unto others as you would have them do unto you part?
Don't lie to yourself. They are coming for you and me. They are.
The history of the movement is really important to understand.
Yeah, let's talk about history of the word woke.
I think you can pinpoint it in a garden with a snake cajoling the first woman to be you can be as gods.
It's a made-up tale.
But I think that if we want to specifically plant it, a starting point in more modern times, Most people point to Karl Marx.
Nope, that's not it.
But I think it's important also to understand what Marx was influenced by, and this is a philosopher named Hegel. And Hegel's really important to understand because he started really the engine of the modern progressive movement, which he called the dialectic.
It's weird, too, because Google is actually free. The thing is, there have always been people who looked at the world and said, hey, let's try to make this place a little bit better. And yes, agree with him or not, Karl Marx was one of those people. But the thing is that Marxism is a scary word for a lot of Christians, and the term cultural Marxism or social Marxism have long been used as an anti-Semitic dog whistle.
We have social Marxism.
The cultural Marxism, it's something that you have spoken about, and it's something many people who are consider themselves conservatives or centre-right warn about. But then there's an entire line of thinking that says this is a conspiracy theory. It's a right-wing conspiracy theory. There is no...
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a conspiracy
theory. Well, what's your response to that?
For university professor.
I view the wokeness as a form of cultural Marxism.
Originally referred to as cultural Bolshevism, and then eventually cultural Marxism, it's meant to say that these Jewish elites are trying to corrupt our morals by introducing immigrants and foreign morality like feminism into our way of doing things. And obviously, when a term like this is used a lot, it creates a life of its own, and not everyone who uses it is definitely using it meaning to be racist. But it is always used to create fear and anger, regardless of who that fear and anger is targeted at. But the thing is, Marxism or cultural Marxism has nothing to do with the term woke. The word woke comes from black people as early as the 1920s, possibly before then, who used it as a reminder to be aware or to be awake to the fact that black people are treated differently by the government and by society as a whole. Here's a recording from 1938 from blues musician Leadbelly talking about the history of his song, The Scottsboro Boys, about black teenagers who were accused of assaulting two white women just because they were caught in the same area as two white women.
But anyhow, they put the boys in jail, and in that 6 long years, well, the state, all the whole United States got together, and they got out 4 of them, and they come to New York, and the lawyer what got him out, I know him pretty good, I've met him, and he showed me the Scottsboro Boys, and I shake hands with him, so I made this little song about down there, so I advise everybody to be a little careful when they go along through that, but stay woke, keep their eyes open.
So the word's been used a lot, but then it came back in full force after the murder of Michael Brown in 2014. And then again after George Floyd in 2020. But then the conservatives and the evangelicals get scared because they are once again getting called out for their actions. So once again, they call it Marxism and find reasons why it's evil instead of actually looking at their own actions.
The original Black Lives Matter mission statement has largely been scrubbed from the internet. Now, if somebody says, well, do Black Lives Matter? Well, of course they do. People are made in the image and likeness of God, and God loved them so much that Jesus died for them.
Wow, so this is what equality feels like.
But the movement isn't about that. It's deception. It's fake news or false prophecy.
Of course, the movement and the organization are separate things. People who have Black Lives Matter signs or say the phrase Black Lives Matter are rarely ever associated with the organization, but that doesn't stop these people from just dismissing it all because they find holes in the organization.
Before we break down the numbers, just how shady are the finances of BLM?
Just as shady as Joe Biden's son in Burisma.
Here was the original statement that has largely been scrubbed from the internet. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. This is a gender, sex issue. I thought we do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege, male-female, and uplift black trans folks, especially black trans women. We build space that is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments which are men-centered. We dismantle the patriarchal practice. That means fathers. That requires mothers to work double shifts so that they can mother in the private, even as they participate in public justice work. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. Mom, dad, kids. We foster a queer-affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intent of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, or rather the belief that in all the world are heterosexual unless he, she, or they disclose otherwise. Why is this such a powerful movement? Because it's spiritual. Our war is not against flesh and blood, but powers, principalities, and spirits.
You know that's not a mission statement, right? That's an inclusion statement for who can be involved with the organization. They welcome gay people, trans people, and single moms. They didn't scrub it from the internet. They just made their language more clear.
That we're made in the unique image of God. There is one race. Let me say it again. One race. Race as we know it is a man-made construct. There's one race. There's great diversity. And I'm so happy, I'm so thrilled of the diversity in the creativity of God. What has happened in the past in our nation has been hellacious. With slavery, treating human beings as animals, absolutely awful. From that, though, we've learned from that, and we're still paying the price in many, many ways about slavery and about persecution and about racism. That's right, I'll use the word. But look where we are today.
And it's still a problem today. And we need to take steps to remove those barriers to entrance.
Look where we are today. The Bible, though, says from cover to cover that we are unique, that we're one of a kind. Anytime we talk about race, like we stereotype someone, maybe we take just a few people and then try to stereotype an entire group of people based on the behavior of just a few. Anytime we do that, we're making a mockery of the majesty of our Maker. So no. Wokers don't have the corner on the market of racism. Heck to the no. As Christians, we do. It's a beautiful thing, an amazing thing, an empowering thing. But remember, we're one.
I'm going to go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt here. I don't think he actually meant to say that Christians have cornered the market on racism and that it's beautiful and amazing. I imagine he's saying that Christians are against racism and that he just misspoke.
All we're talking about is different melanin in our skin. That's it. But sadly, there's been racism in our nation's history and also racism around the world.
Okay, great. And we can all work to fix that. Nobody is saying you aren't allowed to help fight racism. It's not a competition. We can all work together to fight racism. But obviously, it's not just racism that the word woke has been attached to.
We have a whole month dedicated to pride, which is a sin.
He must hate that song that says, "I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free." Couldn't find that sermon anywhere, but he has a lot of sermons on the internet, so I must have missed it.
Pride is a sin. Humility is a virtue. And it is denoted by a rainbow flag, which again is a counterfeit. In the days of Noah, when God flooded the earth to judge the sinners, he sent a rainbow covenanting that he would not flood the earth again. In the ancient world, you would go to war not with a gun, but with a bow. And when the soldier came home, the symbol of peace was he would literally hang his bow on the wall and the war was over. And what God said was, I've judged sin, but I'm willing to forgive it. And now what we have done is we have let the Jezebel spirit take that flag, rainbow, and use it to mock and defy God.
It never ceases to blow my mind that these people would rather have the rainbow be a reminder of the time God killed whole families because he got real mad than for it to be about inclusion and love. But it also makes sense.
Those banners hung for a little more than 24 hours before someone noticed what was left on the quad late Tuesday night. 4 of the flags had been torn down, spray painted, and laid out on the sidewalk, alongside the message, "Not in my town."
This video has been circulating on social media showing a Utah high school student cutting down a pride flag and students cheering him on.
Tonight, the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Department is investigating after a man is seen on video cutting down a pride flag and an American flag. The superintendent of John Swett Unified arrived at the district offices. They were on Park Avenue in Rodeo this morning and found both of those flags on the ground. Charles.
Recently at Target, Christians got so mad that there was rainbows on things that a bunch of staff were starting to fear for their safety. So in some stores, they had to move or cut down on their Pride merchandise.
Pride merchandise has been on sale at Target since early May, and Target says since those items have hit store shelves, the company has faced intense backlash from some customers. Target says they're now moving those items to the back of some of its stores as they've experienced threats impacting team members' sense of safety and well-being while at work.
Also, I would like to point out that someone who uses threats of violence to get their way, especially if they have political or religious motivations for that threat, is known as a terrorist.
But everywhere we turn, people are getting woke. Have you heard about the Cowboys? They're changing their name. Did you know that? They've gone totally woke. From the Cowboys to the Dallas Cowpersons. See, you have a hard time laughing. You love the Cowboys so much, you can't even laugh. That was funny.
You know you're not funny when you can't get bigots to laugh at your bigoted joke.
That was really funny. What would be funnier, the Dallas Cowqueers? Is that funnier?
Good Lord. Book Gender Queer. It was removed from school libraries here in Virginia Beach and other cities, and critics of that action say it's reminiscent of book bannings, burnings by Nazis in Germany, or like those depicted in Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, and they wonder whatever happened to free speech. What do you say?
Well, I just say that's ridiculous because we're talking about, and the images portrayed in this book are absolutely obscene and do not have any business in the hands of children.
It's not like they're giving it to toddlers. It's not required reading anywhere for anybody. It's a memoir about one person's journey to find their gender and sexual identity.
It's not for kids.
Books and media about discovering your sexuality have been a thing as long as there have been cave drawings and images on clay pots, because it's an important part of growing up into an adult. There are teenagers who are going through changes in their body, and to have books to help them figure out and help them understand what they are going through is a very important thing. And smart people have recognized this for a long time. The popular book, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, has also been banned many times because it makes people uncomfortable. But now, most people understand why it's a very important book for teenage girls to read. Genderqueer makes people uncomfortable because there are images, but it also makes people uncomfortable because it doesn't deal with heterosexual cis people.
We live in an insane day. We're arguing over birthing people, pregnant people, people who can menstruate, gender pronouns.
Yeah, there's people who are being inclusive in their language, and then there are other people who are getting angry about that. Not all women give birth or menstruate for many different reasons, and that includes cis women. And some trans men or non-binary people do give birth or menstruate. So we use inclusive language because we are aware of the world around us. It's the reason we say flight attendant now instead of sky waitress or whatever.
We've got males in female sports. We recently had in Wales a 12-year-old man who a grown man who identifies as a 12-year-old girl competing against little girls in cricket and hurting them.
It never happened.
Again, Google is free. Nowhere does it say that this woman identifies as a 12-year-old. She is simply a trans woman who is in a rec league, and this rec league allows younger people as young as 12. It is not a professional sport. It is someone who wants to play cricket for fun.
And no one would say anything because they didn't want to offend him.
A lot of people have said things. There are many articles about it because you folks are really into being outraged at things that don't matter. So you can avoid doing any actual good in this world.
All of a sudden, mental health is a civil right. In addition, we're not allowed to just have our children go to the bathroom without guarantee that there won't be some predator there who has gender dysphoria and confusion.
Trans people aren't attacking people in bathrooms. Trans people are being attacked for using the bathroom, but not the other way around. Like this man who was told he had to use the women's bathroom because he was assigned female at birth. Then when he did use the women's bathroom, like the law and the people at the campground told him he had to do, he got attacked because people didn't want a man in the women's bathroom because bigotry and stupidity go hand in hand. I've talked about this before, but I was attacked in a public bathroom when I was about 6 years old by a grown-ass cis man. But people don't freak out about things like that because they aren't actually upset about people using the bathroom. They're upset about who these people are. It's not like predators need to put on a costume and pretend to be trans in order to use the bathroom to attack a child. This isn't a Bugs Bunny cartoon when they have to trick people into thinking they're a woman.
Do you ever find Bugs Bunny attractive when he'd put on a dress and play a girl bunny? No.
You can just sneak into a bathroom, or better yet, if you want access to children, you can just become a pastor.
We have drag shows for kids all the way down to babies this week in the UK. Anytime a child is in a sexualized environment, it's not entertainment, it's grooming.
Hey, Mark, if you're into this and this revs your engine, that's fine and good for you. But for those kids, they're just hearing a story read by somebody in bright colors. You know what is damaging, though, for these kids? When people sent by pastors like you come and violently protest these events.
Our main goal was to make sure that nobody got in and disrupted the event. And so we were kind of holding a wall to make sure that didn't happen. And there was some chaos.
He says that's when something or someone hit him and another person in his group took a spill.
And if you're so worried about sexualizing kids, why aren't you upset about child beauty pageants?
Which one of these talented entertainers, who I am not attracted to at all, will be the winner? I'm not attracted to any of them. None of them. And that's the way it is.
How does that differ from the man who says he believes he's Napoleon? Do we have to accept, I mean, in past times they would be institutionalized. Do we have to accept now that he's Napoleon and surrender to him?
Wow, that's pretty rich coming from a guy who obviously identifies as the kid from the end of the movie Big. But seriously, it's the same thing over and over again with these people. Why can't I say I identify as Napoleon or an attack helicopter?
Which is more crazy? Well, that's crazy. Which is more crazy? The man who says he's another man, Napoleon, or the man who says he's not a man at all?
Or like Driscoll's hilarious bit about how his dog is actually his cat.
Pastor Mark here hanging out with my cat up in the mountains.
What if a 20-year-old says, you know what, I'm not 20, I'm an 80-year-old? Do we need to accept that? That's my authentic self, I'm an old man. Or the 80-year-old who says, I'm a 20-year-old, do we have to accept that? That's my authentic self. Or what if someone who is Caucasian says, I'm black, do we have to accept that? They would say, no, that's extreme. Which is more extreme, saying I have a different skin color or I am biologically totally different? Yet, our society is accepting this. Our society is accepting what is clearly nonsense.
You know that we measure years by how many times we go around the sun. It's not something that can change, but gender is fluid.
For 65 years, Disney was governed by 4 keys: safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. In 2025, they added one more: inclusion.
Okay, I mean, it's 2023 now, so I don't know how you know something that happened in 2025. I'll just guess that you misspoke and are not using time travel terribly wrong. What is wrong with inclusion? Apparently a lot.
Well, Chick-fil-A is a hot topic on social media after the company highlighted its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, stating on its webpage that, quote, Chick-fil-A Inc.'s commitment to being better at together means embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion in everything we do.
If Chick-fil-A isn't safe after they say the most nothing statement about diversity and inclusion, these people must really, really hate diversity and inclusion.
Now, all sexualities, all genders, all religions need to be included, which is really weird because if you don't have a vaccination and want to talk about Jesus, it doesn't seem like you're included. I'm just throwing that in there.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to show a lot of anti-vax stuff, and that's really sad for people who, want to get grandma sick or whatever, and I'm really sorry about that. But they do have the Chronicles of Narnia, and that has Lion Jesus in it, so...
And you're not allowed to say, welcome, men and women, boys and girls. Gender pronouns are now gone at Disney.
Oh, that's cute. I guess they say dreamers of all ages now. And as someone with a non-binary sibling, and as someone who is a dreamer, because the meds I take for my anxiety make it so that my dreams are super vivid and lucid, I really appreciate that. And if I were to venture out and guess, I'd say that this language that they've decided to use is just for their staff, and that guests are allowed to call people boys and girls and use their preferred pronouns.
On Disney Plus, they have removed movies like Dumbo, Peter Pan, The Aristocrats, Swiss Family Robinson, Lady and the Tramp, and Jungle Book.
They just put warnings on them, and they're all still there. In fact, what's funny about this statement is that each one of the movies he said has at least 2 versions available to watch on Disney Plus, the original and at least 1 remake.
But here's what you will find, this cartoon on Disney Plus. It's Little Demon.
I've talked before in a different video about the Christian freak out over Little Demons, so I'll spare you here. But I will say that Satan is a Bible character, and he's one of the main characters on this show, so it kind of is a Christian show if you think about it.
Or she is. People who are being graduated out of the university system are downright mad at the planet. Why? Because they see everything through a critical theory lens. And that blurry lens is telling them everything's terrible. Everything that you think that you've enjoyed in this place, it has come because of evil people, and therefore we need to tear down the entire place, all of the structures, so that we can ultimately have utopia. Critical theory makes you mad.
These people hate any challenge to the status quo. Anything that says maybe they are taking part in a system that could be hurting people makes them so angry, and they won't even take a second to consider a change. Instead, they are under attack and they need someone to blame. So, I don't know, let's go with the schools.
Christian schools and education are under attack. The authority of parents to decide what their children learn and don't learn is now suddenly debatable. And if you should say anything, you will be deplatformed and you will be canceled.
It amazes me that people would only want their kids to learn what the parents already know. Like, wouldn't you want the next generation to know more than the previous one did? Shouldn't that be the goal of parenting, for your kids to thrive and to be knowledgeable about the world around them? But no, these people want mini versions of themselves with all their same beliefs, all their same biases, and all their same prejudices. Because they believe that if their child ever challenges them on anything, that it's because their child has been corrupted, instead of being proud that their child is thinking for themselves.
Where children are taught that a certain category of people are oppressors, and then there are oppressed. So on the oppressor side, and believe me, this is truly Marxist in its roots. And we know that Marxism is against any kind of faith and against God. And so, they want to destroy the family, and they're using these Marxist tools to do it. On the oppressor side, it's white, male, heterosexual, and even Christians are being called oppressors.
Even Christians? No.
And then the other side, the oppressed, are every other race and ethnicity, females, LGBTQ, and what they're calling minority religions. And it is widespread in every school in America's classrooms.
Have always done. They silence truth. Yeah, but our history goes back much further than Marx, back to the university. As early as 1951.
Karl Marx was before 1951. Quite a long time before 1951.
William Buckley observed that Yale University was no longer producing graduates who had a commitment to fundamental American values. The advancement of critical social justice ideology has been well documented, so it is not necessary to trace that history, but suffice it to say, our universities are so infected with critical social justice ideology that they are probably not salvageable at this point.
Yeah, people are so brainwashed with the idea that they should help people that they are beyond help.
Whether they are or they are not, you need to know if you send your child to university, high school, or middle school of the public sort, they're getting drubbed with critical theory. Hey, you telling me what to do with my kid's education? No, I'm just telling you, don't be shocked if increasingly your student comes home with more anti-Christian thinking.
There will be some anti-bullying rally, and anti-woke parents will get mad that their kids are told not to pick on the effeminate boy. There will be a lesson on the civil rights movement in social studies, and a parent will say it's CRT. There will be a sex ed class, and parents will be upset that their kids are finding out what their own bodies do. But they aren't brainwashing your kids with woke ideology or critical theories, as you call it.
Because I'm going to argue, check this out, and you're going to see why. Wokeism is a religion. Let me say it again. Wokeism is a religion. Wokeism is a religion.
Oh, Dad, you're embarrassing me again.
I love that religious people always say that something they don't agree with is a religion, even though they are the ones who like religion.
Wokeism is moralism without reference to truth. It's a Puritanism without redemption. It's a religious worldview without any heaven.
Yeah, if you don't believe in heaven, you want to make sure that as many people here have a good life while it lasts. But this is something these people continually do. Heaven's going to be better, so why do we need to make this earth better?
Where we live right now, this place, Earth, is it. So everything's on the line here for them. They think, as you said, they can perfect this earth. Those of us who have faith don't believe that, and we believe how we act here determines where we go after. And so we had to behave. And so even in politics, we don't, we act within those moral limits.
You know what? Because we're here now. We don't know what's happening afterwards. Probably nothing. So let's try to make this place as good as we can. And then, hey, if heaven exists, then we got two good places. What's wrong with that?
And it's time to start calling this empty and divisive worldview exactly what it is. Christian, hunger and thirst for justice. But don't become woke. It's a whole other religion.
What is referred to as being woke is a demonic counterfeit of being born again. Jesus said that we must be born again. That means awakened by the Spirit of God to our own sin. Being woke is the counterfeit of that. It's being awakened by demonic spirits, so that you will understand that you are a good person and not a sinner, and you don't need Jesus. You're your own Savior.
I like how earlier he said this.
People do not regard one another as human beings.
And then he goes on to literally demonize people who simply want change. Recently, Dry Bar Comedy put out a video on YouTube of comedian Karen Morgan talking about the differences between each of the generations.
Everybody's mad at the millennials. And I think it's because they invented avocado toast.
On YouTube, it got a lot of love from boomers and Gen Xers, but this part in particular has gotten a different reaction on TikTok.
Gen Z doesn't know how to write a check. They don't know how to address an envelope. They don't know how to read cursive. They don't know how to read a paper map. They can't get anywhere unless there's a GPS map on their phone. All I'm saying is if Gen Z takes over the world, it's going to be pretty easy to get it back.
A lot of people pointed out that, yeah, there's a lot of stuff we don't do anymore because that's how time works and that's how time has always worked.
Gen Z doesn't know Morse code. Don't even know it. Couldn't send a telegram if you paid them to.
Oh my God, do you know how to hunt for your own food? Or churn butter? Like, why are y'all so scared to move on with the fucking time?
And a lot of people have also pointed out that they can't really criticize Gen Z for not knowing how to do cursive when boomers and Gen X are pretty bad at technology.
Hey Frank, IT again. I saw your ticket. What do you need help with this time?
I can't turn the computer on.
Okay, well last time it was the monitor. Did you turn on the monitor?
Boomers don't know how to draft an email or pay their bill online or successfully rotate and save a PDF. It's a lot of bold talk coming from somebody who probably still lists typing as a skill on their resume.
Julia, you're on mute again. No, hit, you see the button that says mute? Press that button.
Yeah, so just click File, Save As, and then you just select PDF. Save as PDF, yeah. File. It's in the top left corner.
All right, and your total is going to be $10.95. I'll just use this. Oh, I see that you're using a card with a chip, so I just need you to insert the chip. What? Sorry, sir, I don't think you understand. You just grunted and then continued to swipe. I just need you to insert the chip.
And a lot of other people have pointed out that boomers and Gen X have really screwed up society in a huge way that goes way deeper than knowing how to address an envelope.
Well, Gen Z also doesn't know how to crash the economy, so thank you guys for doing it twice for us.
The reason I bring this up is that, for one, every generation is critical of the next generation. And the main reason for that is that people don't like change. People think that because it worked for them, it should work for the next generation.
I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it seems weird and scary to me. It'll happen to you.
And another thing she does throughout her set is to say, and we're all still here.
Nobody wore a seatbelt, not even in the front seat. If your mom's arm wasn't strong enough, you deserve to go through the windshield. We're all still here. We're never going out of business.
Stand-up comedy is really hard. I tried it, and I failed miserably. I was not good at it. And I tried for a while. She found an audience, and people love her. But the thing is, this we survived it mentality is very strong with that generation. And the fact is that a lot of people didn't survive. It's just that the people who did survive without wearing a seatbelt are the ones who are here to talk about it. It's called survivorship bias. You see, in World War II, planes would come back from battle, and they would look at the damage to decide how to reinforce the planes to make them safer going forward. The first idea was to reinforce all the areas where there were bullet holes, assuming that that meant that those were the easiest targets to hit. Then a mathematician named Abraham Wald pointed out that they were examining the planes that returned, which means that they should be looking at where there was no damage, because the planes that were hit there are the ones that never made it home. We love to say that this is the way it's always been and it's worked out pretty well so far, but we say that because we are the ones who survived. It's easy to say I worked really hard and I got promoted, but you working hard doesn't mean that the other person who got looked over for that promotion wasn't also working hard. We then ignore the fact that race or gender or sexuality or whatever else could be a factor. We're only looking at the fact that we made it. It's easy to say, well, I've always been polite and did what the police asked me, and I've always had pleasant interactions, so I don't think anything needs to change. But that's your experience, that you survived. I've never had to quit my job because I couldn't afford childcare. My kids never had any trouble getting into a good school. I've never had anyone yell at me for being in my own front lawn because they didn't think I belonged in their neighborhood. When your life is comfortable and you don't want that life to change, it's easy to say that the world is fine the way it is and to feel uncomfortable when anyone challenges that. And then when somebody gives you an out so that you don't have to engage with those ideas, and you're allowed to now just dismiss it as PC culture run amok, or cultural Marxism, or that's just the woke mind virus, or that's just a social justice warrior, or that's just critical theory, or that's just whatever boogeyman we have at the moment. Then you get to dismiss it all as enemy ideology without actually engaging in any of the concerns from the people who are still getting hurt by a broken system. I'm not saying we can fix all our problems overnight, but what I am saying is that we do need to make changes, and that some of those changes are going to be uncomfortable. But just because something is uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad. Needles can feel uncomfortable, but they're necessary sometimes. Breakups are uncomfortable, but they're necessary sometimes.
I want to remain friends, or at least business associates who get along. Oh, just so you know, it's not me, it's you.
Asking for a raise is uncomfortable, but it's necessary sometimes. Avoiding everything that scares us or makes us uncomfortable is no way to go through life. Face your fears. Make a change. Question your own biases. Question your own prejudices. Admit that you've made mistakes in the past. Understand that sometimes there are consequences to our actions. Thanks for making it this far. If you know somebody who may benefit from watching this, send it their way. And you have a wonderful day. Love you.
Work, Sky Moon.